Hi there, and welcome to our Burkenroad's video report on Conrad Industries Incorporated. My name is Connor Oakwin, and my fellow analysts are Heath Gardenhire, Nick Gonzalez, and Rodrigo Rapaccioli. During this presentation, we will provide a brief overview of the shipbuilding and repair industry, provide an overview of Conrad's history and products, explain our investment thesis, discuss our risk analysis, and describe our valuation of the company. Before we begin, however, we'd like to show you a quick snapshot of Conrad. The company, which is traded over the counter, has a current stock price of $32.95, 5.9 million shares outstanding, market cap of $231.59 million, enterprise value of $168.11 million, price to earnings multiple of 12.85, and a debt to equity ratio of 1.47. The shipbuilding and repair industry in the United States is made up of more than 600 companies that combine to produce $21 billion in annual revenues. The largest 50 companies make up 90% of the total market share in this highly concentrated industry. The industry is broken down into 4 shipbuilding regions: Atlantic Coast, Gulf Coast, Pacific Coast, and the Great Lakes. Within these regions, there are 2 tiers of shipyards: first tier and second tier. First tier shipyards have facilities that can accommodate large-scale vessels over 383 feet long. Conrad Industries operates a second tier shipyard, building and repairing small to medium-sized vessels in the Gulf Coast region. Competitors in this segment are primarily privately held companies that compete for government and commercial contracts. The shipbuilding and repair industry has a high barrier to entry because it takes a large initial capital investment to acquire the equipment and facilities needed to commence operations. The viability of a shipyard in the southeastern United States is contingent on it being located on a waterway with direct access to the Gulf. Customers in the shipbuilding and repair services market have a considerable amount of bargaining power. The customer segment is made up primarily of 3 main groups: the energy industry, commercial logistics and associated companies, and government agencies. Governmental agencies have the most bargaining power because government contracts are subject to termination at the government's convenience. The second-tier segment of the Gulf Coast shipbuilding and repair industry is very competitive because of shrinking profit margins and high capital costs. Several regional and national companies compete with Conrad for a limited number of government and commercial contracts. Volatile commodity prices and a reduction in government spending threaten to further increase the intensity of the competition. Conrad Industries builds, repairs, and converts tugboats, ferries, lift boats, and barges across 4 shipyards in Texas and Louisiana. Conrad was founded by J. Parker Conrad in 1948 in Morgan City, Louisiana, before acquiring 2,300 square feet of land from Orange Shipbuilding Company in 1997 in Orange, Texas. Orange Shipbuilding's 25 years of shipbuilding experience helped Conrad grow into a diverse Gulf Coast ship servicing company. In addition to vessel construction, repair, and modification, Conrad also manufactures reconfigurable components for offshore oil rigs. Conrad's acquisition of Orange Shipbuilding extended Conrad's product line from commercial vessels to specialized vessels for the U.S. government. Conrad Industries became public in June 1998 and listed on NASDAQ by issuing 2.1 million shares of common stock as the holding company of its independently owned subsidiaries: Conrad Shipyard LLC, Orange Shipbuilding Company Incorporated, and Conrad Aluminum LLC. Conrad has grown considerably over the past 5 years and is expected to continue growing steadily. Conrad has 4 shipyards along the Gulf Coast, from as far west as Orange, Texas, to as far east as Amelia, Louisiana, with corporate headquarters located in Morgan City, Louisiana. Conrad divides its business into 2 segments: new vessel construction and vessel repair and conversion. The company constructs steel and aluminum inland and ocean-going vessels, including barges, dredges, ferries, fire and patrol boats, lifeboats, lift boats, tugboats, and supply vessels up to 350 feet in length. Conrad also constructs modular components for use in offshore oil and gas exploration and production facilities and infrastructure. Conversion services include vessel lengthening, modifications to increase functionality and capacity, and alterations to allow vessels to serve new roles, such as transportation of different materials. Conrad's dockside repair and conversion facilities can accommodate vessels up to 500 feet in length. In 2011 and 2012, new construction has accounted for roughly 80% of revenues, with the remaining 20% attributable to conversion and repair contracts. Our investment thesis is based on Conrad's strong cash position, recent special dividend, share repurchase program, diversification, and capital reinvestment. Conrad has undergone a remarkable resurgence from its financial woes of 2004. Current management has diversified the company's product mix to create a larger customer base and improved infrastructure to take advantage of increased demand from traditional oil and gas customers as well as other commercial interests. The company has demonstrated its adaptability by developing a stock barge building program and taking on more government contracts to maintain productivity in periods of weak demand from commercial contracts. The stock barge program, in particular, allows the company to keep its labor force mobilized even in periods of weak demand, thereby maintaining a high level of throughput, or labor hours productivity. We believe these strategies will continue to benefit the company and result in long-term revenue growth. Conrad's business is prone to numerous operational, financial, and regulatory risks. As a capital-intensive business located near the Gulf of Mexico, Conrad is directly affected by the risks associated with the cyclical oil and gas industry, price increases in raw manufacturing material, U.S. government budget constraints, and threats from weather. Traditionally, oil and gas prices have been volatile. Prices frequently swing from extreme highs to extreme lows. Low oil and gas prices have decreased exploration and production operations and consequently decreased operations from downstream customers dependent on exploration and production operations. A slowdown in the Gulf's oil and gas industry will most likely negatively affect Conrad's revenue from construction and repair. U.S. government budget constraints. Conrad constructs vessels to meet local, state, and federal government demand. Typical contracts are fulfilled for the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Although the U.S. government has the largest budget of any of Conrad's customers, its budget is steadily shrinking as indicated by a percentage of total revenues of 17.3% and 7.7% for the last 2 years. Disaster risks. Conrad's proximity to the Gulf of Mexico makes it extremely vulnerable to damaging natural forces such as hurricanes or flooding. Conrad protects itself with insurance against such forces, but it is still subject to devastating effects occasionally. As a capital-intensive business, Conrad relies on the good standing of its facilities and equipment to maintain healthy production numbers and meet production and delivery deadlines to customers, even during weather-related disruptions. Regulatory. Regulations that affect Conrad are the Merchant Marine Act of 1920 and the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. The Merchant Marine Act of 1920 requires that all vessels transporting goods between U.S. ports have to be made in the United States. This act gives Conrad a competitive advantage over foreign shipbuilders. Financial. Conrad has two types of financial risks, those that affect the company's operating finances and those that relate only to its stock price. With regards to operating finances, Conrad uses the percent of completion accounting method to recognize revenues and expenses. The company attempts to project the total labor hours necessary for a particular contract and uses the number of hours actually worked in a given quarter to estimate revenue and expenses. However, substantial differences between projected labor hours and actual labor hours can require reconciliation of expenses once a project is complete. Moreover, the timing of stated revenues can differ significantly from when payment is actually received, depending on the terms of each contract. The net result is that revenue and expenses can fluctuate and have a material impact on operating results from quarter to quarter. There are also several risk factors that could affect Conrad's stock price, primarily the illiquidity of its shares and certain anti-takeover measures incorporated into the company's certificate of incorporation. Conrad's overall financial health can be evaluated by using common ratios which provide information on liabilities, debt, cash assets, and earnings. The table above compares Conrad to several of its peers using 4 measures of liquidity and debt coverage. From the table, we can see that Conrad has a solid financial position with low liabilities, low debt, low interest expense, and strong cash and earnings. From an overall financial health perspective, Conrad appears to be a low-risk company. We give Conrad a market outperform rating and project a 1-year share price target of $47. We use several methods to come up with our price target, including discounted free cash flow to the firm, price to earnings ratio, and price to book value ratio. We believe our valuation reflects Conrad's strong financial position as well as general industry trends. This concludes our presentation. We thank you for your time and your interest in Conrad Industries. Please note, Burkenroad reports are produced solely as part of an educational program at Tulane University's A.B. Friedman School of Business. The reports are not investment advice, and you should not rely on them in making any investment decisions. You should consult an investment professional and/or conduct your own primary research regarding any potential investment.